What's up everyone, this is Pooka and welcome to another video featuring brand new cards from the Pokemon XY set for the Pokemon TCG. This was another deck from my Bad Deck Monday stream, and I thought this was an interesting concept that may have a little bit of potential, so we'll go ahead and look at it. And that's going to revolve around the new card Aegislash. Now, at first glance, it doesn't look very powerful at all. I mean, it is a sword, but it doesn't really look very powerful, as this attack King's Shield for 4 energy. That's 2 metal and 2 colorless energy. It does 50 damage. That's it? This is like base set numbers. Like at the beginning of the game, Stage 2 Pokemon maybe did 50 for 4, and those were the bad ones. But it does have an effect. Prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks during your opponent's next turn. Oh, well, I guess that makes it a little better. The other downside, though, is that this Pokemon can't use King Shield during your next turn. So this is actually a very complicated Pokemon. First of all, it takes a lot of energy to use, does a very low amount of damage, but then it has an awesome effect and a pretty hefty drawback. So how are we going to use all this stuff, try to cancel out our downsides while taking advantage of the potential good aspects of Aegislash? So obviously the first thing we need to do is find a way to use King Shield every single turn. If we can get Aegislash to the bench and then put it back active, we can reset the effect of not being able to use the attack, and we can use it every turn and possibly prevent our opponent from ever knocking out Aegislash. So the easiest way to do that is to use Keldeo EX. Every turn you can just use Rush In, and then that'll reset King Shield. Then we attach a Float Stone to Keldeo EX, get a free retreat cost, and then go back and King's Shield once again. So that's the basic idea. There are a lot of ways to mess with King Shield. There are some attacks that go through it. Special conditions can still get through, and all sorts of effects can definitely mess with you. But for the most part, it's a pretty solid effect not being able to be damaged. It also has a nice ability stance change, which will allow you to switch it out with a different Aegislash card. So that's a double aid. But we can switch to this other Aegislash that has Buster Swing, does 120 damage for 4 energy. It's not the greatest attack in the world, but maybe sometimes you just need a big attack, just some oomph to finish off a Pokemon to win the game or something like that. So we have one of these and then 3 of the King's Shield Aegislash. We run a 4-1-4 line of this big metal Pokemon. But how do we power this thing up? Well, the best way to do it is Victini EX's Turbo Energize. For 1 energy, we can search for 2 basic energy and then attach them to your bench Pokemon. So this is the easiest way to power up Aegislash, since it takes so much darn energy to actually use. We're going to use Victini EX to power it up. And that's basically the core idea of the deck. Victini powers up Aegislash, and then you try to use King Shield every turn. Keldeo EX can rush in and retreat, just to make sure your Aegislash never gets knocked up. And we have some other Pokemon in here too. Those are just kind of role players in the deck. Things we just want to pay attention to. Genesect EX is a big problem. It does have the G-Booster attack that will go through King Shield, and also the Red Signal ability messes with us pretty badly as well. So we do have Victini EX as an attacker as well. We're going to run a Victory Piece, which allows Victini EX to attack for free, which will allow it to use Intensifying Burn, which does 100 times 2 against all Fire Weak EXs, meaning Genesect EX, Virizion EX. Those go down in 1 hit. So Victory Piece is going to be our ace spec of choice for the deck. Otherwise, we got some pretty standard supporters. I do run a Tropical Beach. You definitely don't need to play it. It's just nice to have sometimes. I always like playing a counter stadium, so Tropical Beach always kind of works for me. You can definitely just switch this out for another supporter, though. It's not very necessary, since most of the time we're going to be attacking with Turbo Energize early on anyway. For the energy we need 6 metal energy. We need 2 of them to use King Shields, so we also need a bunch of them in the deck to Turbo Energize for, so we have 6 of those. 4 fire to make sure we can Turbo Energize early on, and then 4 double colorless energy because King Shield does take 2 colorless energy as well, so I may as well use that. Otherwise, this is pretty simple and straightforward, nothing out of the ordinary. I would say the most important item card in your deck or trainer is Floatstone, since this does allow you to constantly move Aegislash out of the active spot and continue to use King's Shield. So that is the deck, and we're going to see if it can actually work in practice, not just in theory. So let's take a look at a game I played with good old Aegislash. See if we can chop down our opponent in this game. Starting off with a mulligan, and our opponent is as well. We see some kind of dark deck, and I mulligan for a second time, but this time we get a couple of Honedge to start off with, and we'll see what we can do. Now we see 2 Trubbish here, oh boy. So this is not the greatest thing in the world I want to see here. A Trubbish means Garbodor, which means Keldeo EX's Russian probably won't work this game, which puts a big hit to our strategy. So we're going to have to play intelligently in this game. Now, we're going to start off with an Ultra Ball, discarding a Jirachi EX, and then I suppose a Skyla. Boy, I am tired. I'm going to grab the Victini EX since I do have the victory piece. We'll just attach that, and N, and hope for some good stuff. Hopefully an energy this turn. And indeed I do get a metal energy. We can put that on to the Honedge, and probably just pass the turn. I could put the Floatstone on and retreat to Victini, but if my opponent does play Tool Scrapper, I will be less upset about losing the victory piece than I am about losing a Floatstone, and go figure. There's a Tool Scrapper. Of all the things to lose to lose your victory piece before you can even attack, that is pretty brutal. And alright, now we got to figure out what to do from here. We are put in a very awkward situation. Let's see. Honedge has, it looks like 50 HP. That's really bad. Can't tell if that's 50 or 60. But it's definitely in danger because of that laser and the Verbank City Gym. Now I have 2 Skyla and 2 Juniper and a Rare Candy and my Tool Scrapper. So Professor Juniper here, probably not the right move. I'll have to discard too many cards. It's going to be ugly if I decide to do that. So let's go ahead and Skyla. We are going to probably grab a Floatstone to keep our Honedge alive. Considering my opponent really didn't get any energy in play or anything worthwhile that turn. So we can at least just Floatstone and retreat, keep the Honedge alive, and then put Victini EX active. Hopefully we'll get a Fire Energy next turn to start using Turbo Energize. But at the very least we'll protect our Metal Pokemon so that it can evolve and will preserve that energy. I really don't know if there was a better thing to do there. Losing that victory piece was such a big deal. If I were able to Turbo Energize there, that might have been game-changing just to have an Aegislash pretty much all ready to go. But Tool Scrapper happened, and now we're stuck in this situation. So we see another Hypnotoxic Laser that's going to put Victini EX to sleep, and he will stay asleep, unfortunately. Oh, man, this is not looking good for us right now. But this is a deck that I assume will fall behind a couple prizes before ever setting up, since by nature it's a pretty slow deck. And once you get the lock going, you should be able to just not give up a prize anymore, unless there's things like Escape Rope and Pokemon Catcher. And hopefully we can just kind of beat our opponent and, make it so that they can't take all 6 prizes. I don't particularly mind losing 2 at the beginning, as long as we can kind of control how much we give up. Alright, so I did Skyla for Tropical Beach there. Having the counter stadium was a big deal. Also allowed me to draw more cards, and now we got a better hand to work with. So now I have to decide, do I want to end my opponent who has 7 cards, or Chorus so I can draw 8 cards? I'm holding on to the Tool Scrapper for a better time, since, the tool on Trubbish isn't doing much until Garbodor comes into play. And I think the Chorus here would probably be the best move. See if we can finally draw Fire Energy to turbo energize, and nope. Looks like that's not happening. But we can rare candy into the Aegislash, get that all powered up, and then evolve into a Doublade as well, and attach a second Metal Energy to the Aegislash, and just a DCE, and we will be ready to use King's Shield pretty soon. So things aren't looking all bad. I have not been able to turbo energize yet, but it's not the end of the world. There's still time. I haven't been under too much pressure, just the laser for the most part. This regular Yveltal hasn't even attacked me yet. There's one on the bench. I mean, this is just a full-out Yveltal EX deck. Look at that, he's got all the full arts already. And we'll see what'll really happen here. We see another laser, that's really annoying. But I'm kind of happy that another one got wasted there. I mean, that's 3 gone already. And oh my god. Well, at least I have lots of double colorless energy. Oh boy. Alright, so now we gotta figure out what to do here. I don't think I really need that Buster Swing Aegislash. That's just probably not gonna help too much here. We'll just get another. Well, we can actually get Keldeo EX right here. And just go ahead and search for that. So maybe if we get a Float Stone, we can rush in and retreat. Seems like the right thing to do here. Do I attach the DCE? I'm going to say no, and we're going to just wait to see what we draw off of our N to 6, and that was not very good stuff. Not very good at all. Our deck is really not working, even though we've been drawing lots of cards, just things have not been going well. And I'm actually going to get knocked out by poison at the end of this turn. Do I want to rush in and let Keldeo EX take an attack, or just let the Victini go? I think I'm going to let the Victini go here and just sacrifice a Honedge this turn. Seems like the better move. Keldeo EX is a card I'm going to need, and I don't want that to get stuck active by, I don't know, I don't even have a Float Stone, so I really just don't want to get that stuck in the active spot. But here comes the Yveltal EX. And here comes the biggest, baddest Pokemon out of the brand new set. There is an Evil Ball. It's going to take me down. But we'll see if we can put up a fight with good old Honedge, or Aegislash. Jeez, I cannot get the names of these Pokemon right. Let's see if Aegislash can put up a fight here. I am going to end my opponent down to 3 cards, and we'll get the second Aegislash into play. I also have this Mewtwo EX. It could help out. And we're just going to King's Shield for 50 damage. And alright. The King's Shield has begun. So next turn I'm going to need a Keldeo EX rush in and retreat. But oh no. Garbodor is here. Now he's getting an Evil Ball for 0, which is kind of funny. But now I can't use King's Shield. I can't attack this turn. I do have a I have a Float Stone, but I do have a Tool Scrapper I could draw here. Otherwise, I'm probably going to have to use Mewtwo's X-Ball this turn for 100. And, I mean, that's not the best case scenario, but it's better than nothing, I guess. So Mewtwo could come in handy at this point. I gotta decide, where do I want to attach this turn? Do I want to bench another Honedge? I probably won't need one. I can't really see myself powering up 3 Aegislash in a game. I don't think that's going to happen. So we're going to drop that double colorless onto Mewtwo and Juniper. And oh wow, I actually got the Tool Scrapper. So this is going to be a big turn of events right here. We can Tool Scrapper, discard the Float Stone on Garbodor, rush in, retreat, and King's Shield for 50. And that'll set me up for an X-Ball next turn, but another tool on Garbodor, so going to be very difficult to keep up with the King's shielding every single turn at this point. Boy, this is going to be tough. We do see a Y Cyclone. that can move an energy to a benched Pokemon. It does 0 damage because of King Shield. But my opponent will get to move an energy off of the Yveltal EX. Might have been better off just retreating, and using regular Yveltal's attack. Not really sure. But I am going to take advantage of this opportunity, retreat into Mewtwo and X-Ball for 80, getting the knockout on this Yveltal EX. And we're going to take 2 prizes here, maybe the start of something big. But we're met right away by an Oblivion Wing for 30 damage there, but it gets an energy onto the benched Yveltal EX. Pretty annoying. Now I got to decide what I want to do here. Could power up in Aegislash. Try to get 2 of them, and if I can get 2 of them with Float Stones, we can just keep retreating them back and forth every turn. The other hand, I could just X-Ball for 80 here if I attach another energy, and then follow it up with a King Shield on the following turn. That would be 80, and then 50 would be a knockout. So I may just want to do that, and it seems like the right thing to do since that active Yveltal has a 2 retreat cost. Garbodor is shutting off Darkrai's Dark Cloak, so it's very difficult to retreat. So my opponent would need a lot of cards to retreat the Yveltal, and then needs more cards to actually power up Evil Ball to do enough damage. And looks like, my opponent just didn't have any supporters, so he's going to use the Tropical Beach right there. And right here, I'll take the opportunity, retreat, power up my other Aegislash, and time for some King Shielding. We'll see what we can do. Thinking if I want to Super Rod at this point, but I don't really see... there's no real point to doing that. I think if I'm going to win, it's going to be with these 2 Aegislash. I will Ultra Ball, getting rid of 2 pretty much worthless cards at this point, Aegislash and a Rare Candy. So go ahead and get rid of those, and then King's Shield for 50 damage. Taking another prize, so we're actually tied up here, and we are invincible. Cannot take damage. And I gotta say, as long as there's no second Tool Scrapper at this point, we should be pretty good with being able to King Shield every turn. If I can hit that last Float Stone and then get 2 of them in play to just retreat back and forth between my 2 Aegislash, we can King Shield every turn and kind of lock this game down. Garbodor really is a big pain, though. It's really shutting off Keldeo, and that's a big deal. My opponent actually Ultra Balls for Jirachi EX, but can't use Stellar Guidance because of Garbotoxin, so a little bit of a mistake on my opponent's behalf there. And we'll see what happens this turn. Maybe just another Tropical Beach if that is the case. See the Dark Claw going on to the Yveltal EX. So basically, if I ever just sit there and don't use King Shield, I am in trouble. I definitely will get knocked out by Yveltal EX, so I have to be pretty careful. It's got 3 energy and a Dark Claw, meaning that is doing 100 damage on its own. With Evil Ball, that's very devastating. So pretty much none of my Pokemon are safe here. I did get a switch, which is nice. And I'm going to burn that Heavy Ball because I don't need it. And we're going to King Shield the Garbodor for 50 damage. And let's see if we can keep this train going with the King Shield. And we see the Burbank City Gym. That's a little annoying. But my opponent is kind of out of lasers. Interesting, we haven't really seen Sableye. This seems like a very aggressive Yveltal deck. So, oh no. Oh no, he actually does play 2 Tool Scrapper in his Garbodor deck. And that means, I lose 2 more Float Stones, and this is going to be quite a difficult game to win at this point. I really don't know what I'm going to do right now. I may have to just use this turn to pass. He did send out Trubbish, who might not be able to really attack me here. So maybe this is just a turn where I can attach to Mewtwo and pass. Trubbish has a 2 retreat cost, so I don't know. Another thing I could do is attach and then retreat and King's Shield for 50. I don't know if that's really worth it, though. If I do that, I can Super Odd 3 energy back in the deck. I don't know. I'm going to play the N here and see what we can get. I'm trying to really draw the float stone at this point. I do have one left, so that's going to be my big thing I'm going to try to draw at this point. I'm going to retreat and then King Shield for 50. I may have been better off just sitting there and passing the turn, though. As, oh no, there we see a Hypnotoxic Laser. What am I going to do at this point? So you can see a lot of the problems with the strategy with this deck. It's really a lot to keep going every turn. Now here I have 6 cards left in the deck, but I do have the Super Rod. I could Colress, and then I know there's a switch in there. I can switch. And then King's Shield for the knockout on the Trubbish. And then Super Rod 3 cards back in. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Super Rod, 2 metal, and a fire back in the deck. So my deck is all energy at this point. Switch and King's Shield for 50, taking down the Trubbish. And now the problem is I'm on like a 3-turn clock to kind of win the game. So that maybe wasn't the brightest idea. I don't know. This is going to be close. Did I just overextend there? And I could just be a little short of winning at this point. That would be very, very disappointing. But at the same time, I do have enough energy to power up, say, a Victini EX and just start using Intensifying Burn to really, put some pressure on these EXs. I don't know. It's really going to depend on what my opponent does at this point. I may have just kind of sealed my own fate, though. Just those 2 Tool Scrapper along with Garbodor. Boy, those combined really give this deck a headache. So you can see maybe King Shield isn't too viable. Or maybe I just need to fix the deck up a little bit. But we see an N. And that actually might cost my opponent dearly at this point. Wow. That actually gives me more turns to do stuff. So now we got some decisions to make. So I have 7 cards left in my deck. Now I did use King Shield the last turn. So if I want to use it again, I'll have to retreat. I don't think that's what I want to do, though. So, oh man, this is tough. What can I do at this point? Now, if I don't retreat, what do I do? I may have to just retreat in King Shield. And then it's just becoming an issue at this point. Can I use King Shield over and over and over? And the answer is no, because I have 3 Floatstone in the discard pile. My switch is gone. I can't use Keldeo to rush in any longer. And Aegislash has a 3 retreat cost. So this is just becoming more and more and more difficult to actually do anything. And, boy, I really don't know what to do. All I can do is really pass here, and it's not looking good. The Yveltal EX does come out an Evil Ball for 180. Oh my goodness. So that's going to take down my poor Aegislash. Now, all I can really do here is power up Darkrai, or power up Mewtwo a lot. And hopefully we can soften up his Yveltal EX enough to win the... Whoa, we ran out of cards. Wait, what? Oh, my opponent actually ran out of cards. Oh. I did not expect that. So all of the King Shielding actually paid off, and wow, we stayed alive long enough to win. In what seems to be a very bad matchup, Aegislash actually manages to win the game. And I really don't know. I have to wonder what would have happened if my opponent didn't play an N that one turn, but maybe he would have decked out. I don't know. At any rate, that is a very exciting game and a very exciting win for Aegislash, and maybe I'll have to keep working on this deck. Maybe try to work it out a little better, find some way to make this deck function properly, because King Shield is a pretty cool attack we haven't really seen much like it before. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will have some more new stuff for you guys coming soon. As always, I am Pooka from the Top Cut, and I will see you guys next time.